Hey, this is Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and you're listening to The Paranormally Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen. It does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal and fans of true crime podcast content. You are in the Paranormally Zone, your place for all things paranormal, strange, and mysterious, with the every now and then dives into the macabre, as Mike likes to make sure I pronounce correctly. Introductions are in order. If you are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Patrick Koffenberg. I am responsible for this mess of a podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself, the making a very odd face right now, Michael Carbno. What the hell is going on with that face there, my friend?
I don't know.
Were you...
I do that to Mary all the time, and she just she can't handle it. It's so funny to her.
No, I would say that was more disturbing than funny. So,
yeah, but it's funny to her though. Disturbing to you, funny to Mary.
Okay, disturbing to me for sure. Well, it looked like you were trying to hold back a fart or trying not to burp, or I'm not
There's
sure.
no holding back that. No.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to see you, my friend. As longtime listeners know, ding, 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 we focus on all things paranormal, strange, and mysterious 99.9% of the time. But as of 3 weeks ago, we have decided to throw our hats into the true crime ring, so to speak. We started off with the lovely Mr. Ed Gein, and man, oh man, are we following it up with, I would say,
this one really,
Yeah, go ahead. How would you describe it? My God.
Well, this, it definitely is a true crime story, but it wraps itself in every sick and twisted that we've done episode.
Sure.
Like Ed Gein, true crime, sick and twisted. I mean, this guy... Donald Henry Gaskins.
Pee-wee.
If nobody has heard it. I mean, people haven't really, he's not so much in the limelight where people recognize that name as much as like Ed Gein or Ted Bundy or,
Jeffrey
the killer
Dahmer.
Clown.
Yeah, exactly. John
Jeffrey
Wayne
Dahmer.
Gacy.
But this
all those
guy is every bit as wicked, sick, twisted, the techniques, the everything is as bad as any of these guys that is like a household name, and this guy just is not.
Yeah, that's the thing. And as we were talking before we started recording, Mike, as we mentioned, we were saying, he's not up there. He's not an everyday name, obviously, but his acts were just as atrocious, if not more.
Oh my God.
I mean, you can't rank murder. You just can't rank murder, so it's all atrocious, but the extent that this man went to, what he was capable of doing, and just the sheer emotionless, just doesn't give a flying F about what he was doing attitude just adds to the coldness of it. And
ever since a young child.
I mean, we talked about when we talked during the haunting of Ted Bundy episode, we talked about how it is alleged that he may have committed his first murder when he was as young as 14 years old. But that's pure speculation. No one knows that. No one will ever know that. This man started his crime spree when he was 11, and that's fact. That's a fact.
And that is fact. That's documented fact, yes.
So we're going to dive into this man, Donald Pee-wee Gaskins. What a freaking man that I am so glad I never got to meet. That's for damn sure.
Pee-wee that so called because of he was Well, what we've heard 5'2", 5'5", 5'4".
Any number of things.
Yeah,
It's so
I
funny.
think
It's so
in my
funny when
research I saw 5'2", but or whatever. But
yeah. I saw 5'2". I saw 5'5". You said you saw 5'4" earlier when we were talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, I guess we're never going to know unless I take a look at his death certificate. You know, but,
Right. In any case, he was a very small statured
yeah, absolutely. And you know,
piece of shit of a man.
The name Pee Wee is not to be taken lightly when it comes to how
Right.
this began to shape this man and his mental, the state of his mentality, I should say. I mean, it's not, I'm not stretching it when I say that being called Pee Wee. And no, I'm not going by experience here, everybody. You all longtime listeners, you can withhold your jokes and your snickers. I'm not going by experience here. I've never been called Pee Wee. But I can imagine, and we all can imagine, that's not exactly a positive reinforcement thing going on right there.
Right. And he was called this Pee Wee as, starting very young. But he did have other names that people actually gave him. He was described as the meanest man in America. This one gets me.
Yeah.
The redneck Charles Manson.
I know that one. All I have to say right now, just from listening to some audio of Mr. Gaskins and reading some of his quotes, and by no means am I putting Mr. Manson on a pedestal. By no means at all. But the intelligence comparisons, not even close between the two. And let's just be frank about that one. I can be Patrick, you can be Mike, we'll both be frank. But
absolutely.
Gaskins, and at the risk of offending anybody, but we know our audience is filled with intelligent, awesome people. So none of them are going to be offended by this. But Gaskins came across as just an uneducated, I almost said something bad. Uneducated backwoods creep, basically.
Yeah.
And it's what the terror that he thrust upon South Carolina, all over, during the 1970s is immeasurable. So there is a reason he is called the Hitchhiker Killer.
Yeah, that's another word. And Junior Parrott, Parrott, he was called that as well. That was his mother's maiden name.
That was
Parrott,
his mother's.
Parrot,
yes.
However you want to pronounce it, but yeah.
So again, that added to his frustration, and it doesn't help. None of that stuff helps. So.
Absolutely not.
A lesson to all you parents out there: don't let your kids ever be bullies or call people names, because even the littlest things can have a profound effect.
That lasts throughout a lifetime. I remember one time, this was in the early 70s. I was a young child. My sister called me a dork.
Oh no, a whale's penis?
And boy, did I not forget that to this day. And my dad got mad at her too. My dad said, "Do you know what that word means?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
"Do you know what that word means? You know what you just called your brother?"
Yeah.
And she said no. And my dad said, "The word dork means penis."
Yes. Well, technically, it's a whale's penis. So
I don't know if that's true or not, but as ever since then, I thought my sister has called me a dick, a penis.
I know, isn't that lovely?
A pendulous flesh thing between somebody's legs.
Well, if it's
see what it's done to me,
Mike. If your wang is pendulous when you're almost 60, I'd be happy. I'd be proud, man, because that makes it. Well, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to go anywhere anymore with that.
Actually,
we're not going to talk about Mike's private parts anymore.
No, actually, I think of a scene from a Dana Carvey movie going, "Turtle, turtle, turtle."
Sure. All right, I know which one you're talking about.
No, that's a joke. But anyway, let's get on with this because this is just horrifying.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, can I say something real quick, by the way, before we dive into true crime? And I'll keep it as brief as I can. We are a paranormal focused podcast. As longtime listeners know, that is our passion. Ding, 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 ding. That is our passion, and we're never going to stray from that ever. But man, a lot of these true crime things are just, they're almost, they're addictive almost, man. It's just like, what's going on? What's that say about us? Ugh.
Yeah. And I think listeners enjoy it. And even as sick as it gets, it's great content for an episode. And it's not always easy doing the research on this.
No, it is not.
But I don't know. We learn a lot about humanity.
No, we do. Oh, hey, that's a great way of saying it, Mike. We definitely
Sure.
learned a lot about what we are capable of. So.
And if it's what the listeners want to hear, they are the important ones.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So,
well, what I wanted to say was it was very brief, Mike, but I'm going to chalk it up as being nothing, as I usually do. Okay. And it more than likely was nothing, but it was interesting this morning when we were all, I was getting ready to do my Saturday morning ritual of hauling all the crap to the transfer station, / dump here in town.
I remember doing that when I lived out there.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could do that now.
And Bridget was getting ready to go to town with Jaden, daughter Jaden, and they were about ready to walk out the door. And I was grabbing a bunch of crap I drive Bridget nuts sometimes because I want to throw so much shit away. I just want to throw everything away.
You drive Bridget nuts sometimes.
Well, yeah, of course, because so much stuff to me is just like, what is this? What is this? Why is it here? Why has it been sitting here forever? It does nothing. But anyways, I'm looking through the refrigerator. I'm throwing out expired shit if there is any.
Sure.
Blah blah blah. I was looking through the cheese drawer, and there's like 3 or 4 bags of half-used cheese for tacos and whatever other thing we made this past week. And I said, do you mind if I throw out these cheeses? And she goes, yeah, go right ahead. And I turn around and then I hear cheese. And I turned back and I looked at Jaden and I said, "Oh, what are you correcting my grammar? You said cheese." and Jaden goes, "What?" I said, "You just said cheese." And she goes, "No, I didn't." And I looked at Bridget and I said, "Did you say cheese?" And Bridget and Jaden both looked at each other and said, "You're losing it, Dad." No. We did not say anything as they walked out the door, and I could tell by the looks on their face, they're like, "What the hell? Dad's losing his mind." But I literally heard someone say cheese like they were correcting my grammar, like because I said cheeses, and they thought it should have been, that I shouldn't have used it in plural like that.
Well, could this have been a paranormal experience? Remember?
Well, that's what I'm talking about it right now because
exactly. Remember way back in the day, doing paranormal research and EVP sessions in that house that I lived in Park Rapids, and you were actually chided, I could say, or made fun of or mocked by a spirit saying, "What?
Well,
press play."
Yes, that's exactly it. Press play.
So if this is so you've been kind of corrected by the spirit world more than once.
Well, I think I was correct in how I was using it because I was referring to separate packages of cheeses. Yeah, and it was just really interesting because
there's nobody else in the room.
No, just.
But you heard cheese.
I did. I mean, I thought it was. I heard the word cheese, so much that I turned around and I looked at Jade and I said, "What are you correcting my grammar?" And she goes, "Huh?" I said, "You just said cheese."
Did it sound like Jaden, or was it a voice that you, if you think about it, you recognize it, or it was something that, no, maybe that wasn't Jaden's voice or Bridget's voice?
Well, it definitely, that's a good one. I would definitely say it wasn't Bridget's voice. Bridget's voice is unmistakable. Very unmistakable. I would definitely say it was not her. That's why I thought it was Jaden. But Jaden's, and I know she's telling the truth. She's like,
sure. She's not going to lie about that.
She's like, I didn't say, and the look she gave me, like, you're being really stupid, Dad. No,
it was a real dumbass look.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And so they, like she said, she said, "You're losing your mind, Dad." And then they walked out the door, and I said, "Oh, it must be the ghost in the house then, huh?" And so,
but it was so distinct and so real that you actually reacted to it.
I did.
This is what I heard. That's what was said.
100%. Yes.
I think that's awesome. Yep.
So I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe
I like it.
Maybe I'm hearing things and I don't know. I have no idea. Any hoozle. All right, Mike. Enough of the frivolity.
Frivolity.
Time to get into the.
We need a little bit of frivolity before we really dive into Donald
yes.
Henry Gaskins.
Yeah, the truly sick and twisted.
Some of the things I do want to say, some of the things that we are going to be talking about in this episode, as bad as some things have been before, there are parts to this, one in particular, that if you're very easily offended, which I know our listeners aren't because they listen to us.
Good point.
But there's some pretty very volatile, extremely disgusting and sick things that this man has done.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, because it's definitely it's not easy listening. My gosh, it is not.
Right.
It is not. And if they're new to the program, thank you for checking us out. We appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you.
We want to suck you in and grab you and not let you go.
We hope that you stick around for sure. But this can get tough. Some of this stuff is really, really hard to talk about. And well, let's get to it, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Donald Henry Gaskins, born March 13th, 1933, Florence County, South Carolina. As far as we all know, a normal bouncing baby boy, right?
Right.
Pee-wee Gaskins.
Yep. His mother, Eula. Yulie? How do you pronounce that? Eulea. Yulie? Parrot.
I'd say the Uella. I'd say the
Uella. Yeah, sure.
That sounds more proper to me.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we want to start? Do we want to go through some of the details of his childhood? Do we want to start?
Sure, we might as well start at the beginning.
Do we want to start at that beginning of his crime spree as a young?
Well,
child?
just a brief mention about his mother. He never really knew who his father was.
Yeah, he was illegitimate. Illegitimate.
She had different boyfriends that came in, or he had different stepfathers that. Just never knew who his father was. His mother was actually a really good person and very caring, and was revered by people. But now at the beginning of his life, when he was a young child, and he acted out as a young child, he was like the only person in his entire family that had issues where he would get into trouble a lot, and as a young child, and be scolded. And his brothers actually, his brothers, they actually would beat him at times, trying to get him to just, behave, or they punished him. And so he did have problems with his brothers physically, as abuse.
Isn't it also alleged that his siblings were all illegitimate, just like
nobody. Yeah, because she had so many in and out. And
you said that his mother was a wonderful person. I heard the exact opposite too. I heard both, but I mean, this is according to.
It depends on where you do your research, I guess.
Well, this is according to Donald himself. He supposedly, he didn't supposedly. He claimed that his mother beat him regularly, along with his brothers, and that she also sexually humiliated him. So what does that mean? We don't know. But
what I was reading in the video that I watched, I didn't get any of that. There's actually a girl that was one of Gaskins' victims, a schoolgirl that wasn't found for many years after she was killed. This girl actually really revered Gaskins' mother and thought that she was like a good influence on her and a role model.
This one is even further, or this one even pushes the notion of his mother being awful to him even further, Mike, because it is alleged that she, quote unquote, sold her son to her various boyfriends for further sexual abuse.
Oh, wow.
And again,
that's strange.
But this is what the subjectivity of history is, something that we really need to make clear here. I told Mike right off the bat, I have a book here. It's right at my feet, Serial Killers and Psychopaths. The chapter on Donald Gaskins has his birth date wrong.
Right.
The book does. I'm like, man, did I just get a misprint? Is that an unfortunate error? Or is everything else, do I have to question everything else in that book now because they got the birth date wrong?
Well, it makes you wonder. I mean, we're doing research on the same person, getting things that were supposed to be documented from history about this person and his family and what he had done. But we get so many discrepancies. We haven't seen that with other
not really
sick and twisted true crime things.
But that also adds to the I don't want to say evidence, but it adds to the adds weight to the fact that this man's story and his history is not nearly as well documented or known as people like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer or Richard Ramirez or any number of other whacked out serial killers.
But to listen to this man's daughter talk about the things that he did is really bizarre.
Yeah,
she creeps me out too.
We're not a fan of his daughter from just the one. That sounded terrible, but my gosh, she was not impressive in that one video clip we watched of her, man. That's all I'm going to say.
Shirley Gaskins is his daughter, and she just, whether history says that he killed 8 people or 12 people or whatever, she says no, it was over 100 people. And just to watch her in this video walk through the woods where he had committed these things, where he buried people, and she's like, well, this is where he killed the mother and this child, and just talking about it like it's like you're sitting at having a cup of tea with your pinky finger sticking out, eating a biscuit, and it means nothing.
Well, it's all when you first told me this before we started recording, Mike. I jokingly said, it's like she's almost proud or she wants to add to her dad's notoriety just for her own. Oh, I don't want to. I was going to say for her own benefit, but I don't want to throw. I don't want to suggest that because that would be damn near. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to think of. It'd be wrong. I don't want to do that.
But apparently she loved him because at the end of that video, I watched her sit there, watched her say it herself. But I love my daddy.
Yeah.
You got to love your daddy. No matter what, I love my daddy. And it's like, well.
It's okay not to love him when he's the devil. It's okay.
Yeah.
It really is.
I know, but we haven't been in that situation or that.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Life. So we don't know, I guess, but I don't know if I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt or whatever, but she creeped me out.
And again, forgive me if I said this already, but the name Pee-wee, the nickname Pee-wee cannot be thrown under the rug, and it can't be kind of thrown aside as not having an impact. Especially when Donald didn't even realize that his real name was Donald.
Right.
Until he was in his mid-teens at his first court appearance. That's when the judge or whoever was reading out his actual name, he's like, what? Who the hell's this Donald you're speaking of? Oh, that's you, you Pee-wee. Because his mother never called him by his name. She always called him Pee-wee. Yeah,
that shows another bizarre twist to a childhood. That's Pee-wee is, it's a fun nickname unless you are Pee-wee Gaskins or Pee-wee Herman. Then all bets are off.
Yeah, that's I also think of Pee-wee from the Porky's movies, but he's called Pee-wee for a totally different reason. So.
Yeah, but he was
we'll leave it at that.
Teeny weeny peeny.
Yes, exactly. Now we mentioned earlier that Pee-wee started his crime spree when he was 11. So let's dive into that.
Well, and he had dropped out of school. At 11 and wanted to start this. It's like he was ready to start his life of crime as soon as dropping out of school. And he met up with, he had 2 friends that, what did they call themselves? The trio.
The Trouble Trio.
Trouble Trio, right.
Danny.
And they started out with burglary and assault. And
his friend Danny and his other friend Marsh joined up with Pee-wee and they became the Trouble Trio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, they started with, kind of quote-unquote minor stuff like burglary, like you said. They'd break into homes, they steal, break into businesses. But then they started sexually attacking kids.
Yes.
Other boys, younger children. Okay, these are 11, 12-year-old kids.
Right. And actually gang raped the sister of one of the 3 boys.
And that when they did this, they were at the grand ripe age of 13, Mike, when they did
that was when they were 13, yeah.
Let's think about that for a second. What in God's name is going on there, Mike? Is this...
You got 3 sick and twisted people. What did the other 2 go on to do?
When they're 13, are they truly capable at that age? I think so, definitely. But
absolutely.
I want to throw this out there. I want people to think about it. They're still kids themselves. My God, they're still kids themselves. Definitely capable of performing the most heinous acts possible.
Right. Yeah.
it's just tough for me to wrap my head around that, Mike. I think of, like, we talked about Jaden not that long ago. Jaden's 13. She's 13. She's going to be 14 in a few months.
Yep.
It blows me away to think about
like
13-year-old kids doing this.
Right. These three, like they're at that time, into the crime that they are, the mindset that they have, and then, well into puberty at the same time. That's going to be a hell of a thing that could cause who knows what.
The hormones are raging for sure.
Yeah. And if they have no thoughts of what, they don't care about what they do, as long as it's something for them that they get some gratification or fun out of, they're going to do it.
You know what, though, Mike? The hormones raged for all of us boys when we went through that age.
Oh, yeah, but we aren't criminally minded, sick, twisted bastards.
So that's what I'm saying. Were they born that way? Were they born that way? Were they molded that way? Were they shaped that way? What happened? What is going on there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, you had mentioned when we were text messaging back and forth earlier, you said something, you go, demonic? ?
Yeah. Well, with stuff like this, you always have to have that question put in.
Yeah.
Was there something, was his mother, raped by Beelzebub at a certain time, or
Lord,
or
I'm just giggling at how Mike pronounced Beelzebub.
Or raped by an elephant and become the elephant man. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not an animal.
That's in case people didn't realize.
A human being.
Yeah. Thank you, John Hurt. That was awesome.
I love that movie.
That disturbed me as a kid, man. I had nightmares about the Elephant Man movie, but that's neither here nor there. Shortly after the Trouble Trio, gang raped this freaking poor little girl, one of the gang members' little sister, for God's sakes. Gaskins went on to break into a woman's home. This is Gaskins by himself. And then, while he was fleeing the home after breaking into it, Gaskins, 13-year-old little kid Gaskins, hits this woman in the head with an axe.
Right.
He thought that
she survived.
Yes, she survived. He thought that he killed her, but she survived and ended up identifying him and reporting him to
left her for dead.
The cops, and he was sent off to reform school, which a whole hell of a lot of other bizarre shit starts when he's
exactly. When this happened with this girl, where he had hit her with an axe, and she went into a ditch where there's water, and Gaskins' daughter told that story about what happened. And she said that there was water in the ditch and she landed by the water, and that's how she survived. I don't know what that meant. She's able to get water.
So,
but then until somebody found her.
Yeah. What the hell does she mean by that? That's interesting.
I don't know. Yeah. It's just kind of odd. Just another.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for his daughter too, and I hate being so kind of cruelly judgmental,
right.
But she did not impress me at all.
But there are times during that video that I was watching that, I mean, Gaskins would bring home, and these I suspected were some of the hitchhikers that he picked up, and he would bring somebody home, and she would say that her father would tell her, why don't you make so-and-so something to eat? Mm-hmm. And so his daughter would go off and make something for this person to eat that he brought home. And then she'd say, but then after that, I never saw them again. Wow. So whether she knew what was going on or whether she inadvertently was sucked into this and without knowledge of what he was doing, I mean, you'd have to question that after a while.
Oh, of course.
But as a young girl, a young child, what are you going to think? What are you going to do? And everybody was afraid of this man to begin with. I'm sure she was too.
Yeah, that's just the thing. Is she still, when you're hearing these interviews with her as an adult, is she still somewhat under his spell, so to speak?
Sure.
still
Sure.
just influenced. She's afraid to say anything bad. Maybe that's something.
Well, townsfolk were afraid of him.
Oh, you
you
said
know,
I thought you said tongues folk. I'm like, who the hell's tongues folk?
Townsfolk. Yeah.
Ah, man alive. Well, we got a few minutes here before we have to take our first time traveling excursion. So now this is a young Gaskins who was sent to the reformatory.
Right.
Things started to go downhill even further for this already atrocious child. I'm sorry.
Second night he was there.
I'm sorry I call him an atrocious child, but when you rape a kid when you're 13 years old, you're an atrocious child. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I don't have any sympathy for you. You're capable of knowing the difference between right and wrong, and you don't give a shit. Now, when he enters the informatory, basically right away, there was a certain fellow inmate who declared Gaskins his quote-unquote sweetheart. And they became... he and other inmates eventually started regularly sodomizing and raping Gaskins. At one point where Gaskins said that he had 20 others raping him at the same time. That's
Right. What I read
Gaskins.
on the second night he was there, he was raped by 20 boys in one night.
And again, that's according to Gaskins.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not true. Horrible shit like that does happen.
Oh, sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
But I believe those are quotes, parts of the story that were shared by Gaskins in his memoir, by the way, that was published.
Yeah.
The Final Truth is what it's called. So
there is a book out there, but I will not read the book. I had enough time watching the video.
Well, Mike, we have a hell of a lot to dive into here. It's about ready time to take a time traveling excursion. I'm going to share this couple minutes here to give out the Patreon plug. If you guys, I'm going to share this. I'm going to use this few minutes here to share the Patreon plug. If you guys enjoy what you're listening to, longtime listeners know the content that they get. They're still around. I think that we do a fairly darn good job at what we do. Mike, if you enjoy what you're listening to, if you enjoy all things paranormal, strange, and mysterious, you enjoy guest interviews with your favorite names in the paranormal field,
not little names either. These are some pretty big guests.
These are some pretty darn big guests. And we have a hell of a lot more coming up this summer, and that's awesome.
No, we got a nice lineup.
A nice lineup for sure. You know what? Exclusive episodes. 44 episodes recorded exclusively for our Patreon page. You cannot find them anywhere else. And slowly but surely, we're getting there. I'm finally down to, like, I'd say maybe 40 episodes, Mike, of going all the way back to Nonsense Cast radio days, all the way through the alternate podcast days. All of those episodes have been removed. You can no longer find them other than the Patreon page. Go ahead and check them out. You can join up for as little as $1 a month. No obligations. If you don't like it, you don't enjoy it, you don't think it's worth $1, you can check out.
You won't hurt our feelings too much.
Absolutely not.
We understand.
But we would love the support. If you enjoy what you're listening to, man alive, if you want us to continue, we'd love to see you at the Patreon page. So much cool stuff there. And I just posted a couple video clips from our kind of bumbling paranormal investigation last weekend, but it was still fun. Still fun.
It was fun. It was very cold.
Very, 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 very cold. But we do have some exclusive, not exclusive to longtime listeners or Patreon members, but our own audio and video paranormal, dare I say, evidence? Yes, we do. I'm not joking. Go check it out on our Patreon page. You want some EVPs? Go check them out. Patreon.
Not that we don't have great stuff on our regular episodes.
Well, of course not. Of course not.
Holy criminy.
I'm just saying, Mike, the Patreon page is special.
Yeah, it just puts us a little bit further.
The Paranormally Zone podcast is special. The Patreon page is special. We'd love to see you there. All right, Mike, let's take our time traveling excursion, my friend. Are you ready for part 2 of this disturbing shit?
Yeah.
Oh, Mike!
I think so.
Mike just took a deep breath, so he's.
I did.
He's
you
waiting
have
for
to.
me to shut up. So, all right.
It's bad.
Here comes our time traveling / nuke alert audio. Hold on, boys and girls. We shall be right back. And we are back after yet another successful time traveling excursion. All right, Mike. Let's get into some real. Dark and deep and twisted.
Yeah, it gets pretty dark.
Yeah, stuff that isn't easy to talk about. That's for flipping sure. Now, we left with Gaskins' entry into the reformatory and some of the atrocious acts that were performed upon him during his stay in the reformatory. And that's where we're at. So this went on, this sexual abuse of Gaskins in the reformatory went on for 5 years.
Great.
Now, he was finally released when he was 18. I wrote down the year of his release. 1951 is when he was, no, not 1951 when he was released from the reformatory. 18 years old, Gaskins went on to marry a local girl. I believe, was this at the point where he got a job working on a tobacco farm? Or was that later on down the road? I guess I'm not certain on that. It doesn't matter as far as where he was working.
I think it was about around that time, and that was a big crime issue for him.
Yeah, what was the criminal aspect is that he started burning down farms for insurance scammers.
Well, actually, also what I had read that at the tobacco farm, he had stolen a lot of tobacco to sell himself.
Sure.
And he burned down that tobacco barn as a way to hide his crime.
Yeah. Oh, there's any number of things that are going on here with this guy. You know, it's so interesting when you listen to him, you listen to him speak, you listen to, or you and again, I don't mean to sound so judgmental or make it sound like such a cliche, but he doesn't come across as an ultra intelligent person. But man alive, does he know how to make criminal acts work? He's got that street smarts about him. How to go about
and his final murder is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
But we'll get into that later.
Phenomenally depraved, that's for sure.
Right.
But ingenious in a sick way. Oh gosh, but yeah, he gets involved in the insurance scam from burning down farms. But then after a teenager actually attempted to turn Gaskins in, Gaskins decided to attack this teenager and pummeled her with a hammer. But she, like the other one before this, survived. And he got thrown into prisons for another 6 years for attempted murder. So the majority of his life at this time was spent in prison, essentially.
Right. And he's in and out, but you think at a certain point they'd be like, all right, this guy's done.
Repeat offender. Let's keep this guy under wraps here. Let's not let him go again.
Right. There was no 3 strikes, you're out thing back then.
Now, Mike, this is one in prison where Gaskins starts to form this kind of fearsome reputation and involves, do you want to take it here? His first attack on a fellow inmates? Do you remember what he does here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, his first, this time when he was in jail, he was this tiny little guy and everybody wanted to have him for his bitch, and there's like the top dog in the prison where nobody messes with.
Yep.
And he gets what he wants. And then he had taken a liking to, or whatever, to Pee-wee, this little guy, that can easily be taken over. Pee-wee decided that the only way he was going to get away from this and get out of this situation was for him to become the top dog.
Mm-hmm.
So he took the top dog of the prison at that time and decided he is going to take care of him. He's going to kill him. He's going to murder him. So from what I understand, he cut his throat while he's on the toilet. Why
he was sitting on the toilet.
Gaskins so Pee-wee goes in and cuts his throat, and at the most vulnerable point that a person can be.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah. Yeah, we all know that.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. I got one more shit to do. Yeah, I'll be all right. Just can we wait a second? Well, no, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So it's God, I just had a great thing I was going to say, but it must not have been that great because it's fleeting and it disappeared.
So he actually became top dog where inmates were afraid of him.
Yeah, that exactly. And what I forgot, I remember what I forgot there was that it's insane to sounding, but Gaskins actually essentially got away with that because he claimed self-defense.
Right.
But he still had like 3 more years added to his sentence at that point. So he didn't necessarily get away with it, but I think it could have gone a lot worse for him. But
he always he keeps getting out. He did escape at times also. And when he'd escape, he would hide in the woods, like by where he was from. And his daughter said, you could get lost in these woods and hide forever. And, a lot of people wouldn't go in there because they're afraid of the snakes and everything. But my daddy, he said he slept with the snakes. That didn't bother him at all.
Jeepers creepers. Again.
So, yeah.
Again, this daughter, I don't know. I'm reading here. It says at one point that Gaskins escaped jail by riding inside a trash barrel. That's interesting. Police eventually picked him up at the Trouble Trio's old clubhouse of all places. So escaping prison, he went back to his old stomping grounds there, and that's where they found him. Gaskins finished this sentence and got out in 1961. Again, he gets released in 1961 after this sentence. Less than 2 years later, Gaskins rapes a 12-year-old girl and sent back to prison. I mean, what does it take to keep this guy there forever? I mean,
no,
we talk about 3 strikes and you're out. It should have been 1 strike and you're out for this guy.
Yeah. There's just too many things that for the legal system we're not connecting or something. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
Now, this is where we start getting into Donald Pee Wee Gaskins as a serial murderer.
Right. And it started where, these killings were, it's like they were done in his area where he lived, on his land, close by his house that he lived in. He actually bragged that he had a cemetery in his yard.
Yeah. And that was proven, by the way. Bodies were found.
Yeah.
On his residence. We'll get to the details of that later on. But in November 1968, Gaskins was paroled. And that's when all hell really went loose as far as this guy is concerned. This is where the first hitchhiker comes into play. And the first of many admittedly alleged hitchhiker victims that fell to the ways of the twisted Donald Gaskins, but while working as a roofer, actually. And it always amazes me, too, that these people are consistently employed. They always get jobs.
Right.
Who are hiring these people? Can you not tell if someone's a sick, perverted bastard or what?
Yeah, and this job that he had like that, it would be a good disguise for him to, what he actually did, he would go into hardware stores and look for different tools that he could use to torture people before he killed them and prolong their death, prolong it, and so he could torture them longer.
What a guy, huh? What a guy. But it was at this time where Gaskins picked up that first hitchhiker in South Carolina. During the ride, pulls over a wooded area, rapes and tortures this poor woman, keeps her for as long as he could, as long as he made it possible while torturing her.
Yep, keeps her alive as long as he could. He wanted to prolong that. Before
finally, I don't even want to say mercifully, because it's beyond mercy at that point. And killing her and then drowning her. Well, not killing her, but sinking her in the remains of a swamp.
Yeah, he used the swamp. He did, yep.
Now, this is a quote here that Gaskins, this is from his book. He's describing the thrill of doing this. He says it as a thrill. He says, quote, all I could think about is how I could do anything I wanted to her.
Yep. He had complete control.
I remember reading other quotes earlier tonight about him comparing himself to God, because essentially how he controls people's lives and how people are fearing him. And also since people were essentially fearing him and treating him like God, according to his wicked, warped mind, he therefore could also redeem himself because he is God.
Right. Yep.
So whatever he did, he forgave himself. So therefore he was good. He's going to heaven then because he forgave himself.
And I'm sure he slept very well at night.
Now, I need to get this out here before I forget. Did you also know that the night before his execution, Mike, when he was finally executed,
Yep.
he actually had smuggled in some razor blades.
Well, it was a razor that he had smuggled it in by swallowing it and then regurgitating it. Mm-hmm. And he repeatedly tried to slash his wrist, but it didn't work.
Yep.
Must have been one hell of a dull blade. I don't know.
Just think about this for a second, though. How much is that tearing up his insides when he's regurgitating this thing?
Yeah. Well, at that point, I'm sure he didn't care. Yeah.
No, he didn't. Well, Mike.
And then he was executed just hours after that.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
1:00 in the morning, I believe it was.
Now, it was during this time after the first murder when Gaskins began commonly traveling the highways, often traveling the highways of the South, and he took to repeating this pattern with multiple hitchhikers, hence the nickname the Hitchhiker Killer, both male and female hitchhikers. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter to him.
Right.
He not only did it not matter to him, but the method of killing did not matter to him.
Right.
But he
had to see blood.
He had to see blood.
It was a big thing with him.
Yeah, I mean, think about that for a second too. I mean, how animalistic is that?
Right. Well, his daughter nonchalantly said that he called himself a vampire. He would have to see blood.
I don't get it. He's known to have stabbed, well, I should say claimed to have stabbed victims, strangled victims, suffocated, and even shot some of his victims. But then it gets even more grotesque and disturbing because he is said to have both mutilated and even cannibalized some of his victims. Mike. Yeah. Now, I read stories that he not only would eat severed parts from his deceased...
I don't want to hear it.
from his deceased victims, but he would cut off parts of his victims while they were alive, force them to watch him eat said parts, or force them themselves to eat their own body parts as part of Gaskins' sick, perverse ways of getting off and torturing these poor
That is so souls. Far beyond cannibalism. What would you even call that?
Well, he's also known to have castrated several of his male victims. Now, is it too far to maybe surmise that he forced some of his male victims to eat their own testicles, Mike?
Well, I tell you.
Wow.
If you batter them the right way
Shut up.
And put them in a hot enough oil.
We're not talking about sheep balls right now or anything like that, okay? We're talking about freaking real victims here from this bastard.
At this point, you cannot, discount anything.
Absolutely.
This guy is capable of anything.
Now, these murders that he committed traveling up and down the highways of the South, the back roads between Sumter and Charleston, he referred to these casually as the coastal kills. And he says that it was during these travels up and down the roads that he killed between 80 or 90 people during using any manner of or any method of murder. Which is another thing that kind of sets him apart, Mike, because most serial killers have kind of like that opposite or that modus operandi where they stick to what they usually they have one way that they do, one method that they prefer. This guy was all over the place.
Yeah, all over the place, and whatever what did I say earlier? How he would go to a hardware store and look at tools to make sure that he found tools that worked. That he could prolong their deaths and torture them.
Well, that was a part of his huge thing. He loved torture. That was he got his jollies on torturing these poor souls.
As long as he possibly could, he would prolong their death so he could torture them longer.
Now, this is another thing that sets Gaskins apart because these coastal kills were different from what Gaskins also referred to as serious kills or serious murders, because the serious kills, Mike, were simply the victims that Gaskins knew personally. And he either performed these murders out of rage and or profit, not for simple pleasure, Mike. He was a hired hitman. I mean, we've said that before already. In his final murder that he performed within the confines of the prison, he was hired
within the confines of death row in solitary.
Amazing. So again, just how casual and ho-hum is this guy's mentality, where he's able to compartmentalize his murders. He's able to categorize them. Well, these are my coastal kills. These are my anger kills. These are my pleasure kills. These are such and such kills. I mean, again, the mind of this warped and twisted man. I can't wrap my mind around it.
And one of his kills were a young girl. She was 13. And I saw this on video where the teacher of this young girl was talking and telling this story. Where I think, she was 13. And she, in the class, the teacher had asked all the students, who do they look up to as a role model, as somebody that they can learn from and that they really look up to.
Admire,
exactly. And this 13-year-old girl, she said it was Gaskins' mother. Gaskins' mother treated her so well, and she was so revered by this little girl.
Man.
And that's what she had said. But then Donald actually had kidnapped her and did whatever his thing is with this girl. And she was not found for many years until he had said where he buried her.
My God. Yeah.
And why he did that? I mean, she idolized his mother, but he ends up having her as one of his victims. I don't understand.
No, none of us do, Mike, because we have normal minds. You know, I'd like to think we have normal minds. We all have our quirks, that's for sure. But we're not freaking evil killers. Good Lord Almighty. Yeah, even Macy agrees with that one. She has to bark in approval.
Yeah.
Now, again, getting back to his serious murders, I'm doing the quote unquote here.
Right.
Gaskins' first quote unquote serious murder was actually his own niece.
Right.
15-year-old Janice Kirby and her friend Patricia Ellsbrook, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Gaskins initially tried to rape both girls. Well, I think you said, Mike, earlier that he brought them both to his house.
Well, no, they
under some guise or
there was they were at some kind of a get together, and between where they were at, he had said, "Well, go to my house and you can get something to eat and whatever like that." But these two girls, they did not make it there. He rerouted them into the woods,
that's right. Yeah.
When whatever he did was done, he went home where his daughter was and other people, and his daughter asked him, "Well, where are they at? They didn't show up when they were on their way here to get something to eat." And he just said, "Well, maybe they ran away," and that was his explanation for it.
What an alibi!
But they were never seen again, obviously, until it came up that he had murdered them.
Yeah, he actually beat them to death. After his attempted rapes failed on both girls, he, out of sheer anger and rage, he ended up beating them both to death.
Right.
Now, it was around this time, the same time, that Gaskins kind of put out a work wanted ad.
Sure.
He put it out as like, "Hey, I'm a hitman. Do you need some help?" I mean, I don't mean to sound flippant about this, but it's just so bizarre to me. I can't wrap my mind around it.
Right.
Now, he goes along. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, one of the detectives that was on this whole crime thing said that usually when people do something against somebody or they do something, somebody will sue them. But with Gaskins, no, he wouldn't sue that person. He would go and kill them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
that's so he was. Yeah, he was no problem killing somebody that You want to hire me to kill somebody? He had no qualms about that whatsoever.
No, yeah, but the thing is, if you wanted to hire him, you better protect your own ass and hope he doesn't kill you as well, because he did that.
Exactly, because you would be a liability for him. That you could go against him, and
Oh, he did that though. He did that. He
absolutely.
He killed the people who hired him. He killed their associates. I mean, again, the seemingly unintelligent, uneducated, backwoods dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew how to cover his tracks.
Yeah, he left no loose ends.
Now, Mike, does that come to you? Does that to you seem like something that's instinctive? Do we all know somehow or some way how to cover our tracks? I mean, you know what I'm getting at right there? Oh, I saw a big old floaty just go right behind your right shoulder right there.
Floaty?
Yeah, I did.
I missed it.
I hope you understand what I'm getting at, though. It's like, or do some sick bastards, these perverse losers, have this innate quality that's just, they know how to cover their tracks. They just know how to.
They have to, because they know how sick and demented they are and how far they've gone. They have a fear of being caught, so they're not going to take a chance.
Yeah, there you go. Well said, Mike. Very well said. Now, the bodies continue to pile up. Gaskins decides to befriend an ex-con named Walter Neely. And Walter Neely actually started to, very happily, very readily starts to assist Gaskins in not only burying corpses, but also destroying evidence and fencing stolen goods. At one point, Gaskins came to trust Neely enough to actually murder 28-year-old Dennis Bellamy and 15-year-old Johnny Knight right while his pal Walter Neely watched. But this would later backfire on him.
Yeah. Now, Johnny Knight, actually Christopher Knight from oh
God, you butchered that one already.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah,
yeah. This distant relative. Anyway.
You butchered that one, Mike.
Yeah.
The point that we're getting at here is that Donald Pee Wee actually trusted this guy so much to the point that he was murdering people right in front of him, essentially.
Right.
But that came to backfire, or it would come back to backfire on him. Gaskins then finally attracted authorities after 13-year-old girl Kim Gelkins disappeared. Now, she had actually, spurned Gaskins. Gaskins decided to try and put some sexual advances onto this 13-year-old girl, and she, refused him, rightly so.
Right.
But of course, he ends up killing her because she did such. Cops went on to find some of Kim's clothing in Gaskins' home and eventually busted him for, quote-unquote, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. They also then picked up Neely for questioning, and Neely, his good old buddy Neely, breaks under pressure, blurts out everything he knows. He tells them where the bodies are. He tells them everything, and he leads the cops to Gaskins' most gruesome known crime. This is the part that's disturbing. We're getting to the one we were talking about earlier, Mike, which is it's bothersome to talk about.
The toughest.
Doreen Dempsey was 23 years old, and she lived near Pee Wee Gaskins, and that they were actually friends. She considered him a friend. When 8 months pregnant, Doreen needed a lift to the bus station. She casually, asked Gaskins for a ride, and he agreed. Gaskins gives Doreen and Robin, her 2-year-old daughter, a ride to the bus station. But we all know what happened then.
Yeah, Mike. They didn't make it.
Did you want to talk about this?
Well, from what I saw on the video that I was watching, he had brought in Doreen Dempsey.
You said Broughton. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay. It really is.
He had brought Doreen Dempsey and her 2-year-old daughter to a remote. Well, it's not even remote because it's close right by where he lived. There's a river that went by his house, and this This was bizarre. I saw in this video his daughter, Gaskins' daughter, walking into this area where you could see his house and you could see the river. And she said, this is where her father brought Doreen Dempsey and drowned her in the river. So she was dead. And the 2-year-old little girl, the daughter, Robin, his daughter said, quote, he couldn't resist raping the baby. That was told by the daughter. That he said that he couldn't resist raping the baby. And then after that, he took a hatchet and killed the baby by using the hatchet on the baby's head and buried the baby in a post hole that was there, and just shoved the baby in there and got rid of the baby. He could not help it.
Now, okay, I am totally
by raping the baby.
I am totally lost on that one, Mike. So I have versions of this story. You have versions of this story. They're all atrocious.
I'm just going by what the daughter said.
So again, this is what his daughter claims that Donald told her.
Right.
That he couldn't resist.
Yep. And she believes everything that he said because she can tell when her daddy lied.
Okay. I guess we don't have our stories don't, they line up. Both of our stories that we looked into lined up there. I didn't hear those actual quotes from his daughter, and that adds more weight to the absolute sickness of this.
Yeah.
So, like you said, he couldn't help himself.
That's what she said. He told her, and the reason.
If our listeners can't tell that I'm legitimately surprised by this, I am, because I didn't hear this part, and that is unbelievable.
The daughter also said, I saw her say this, heard her say it in this video, that he killed the mother because she had been with a black man.
Oh, good Lord.
And the baby was half black.
So he's a racist bigot as well.
He's extremely racist. And she said that he did not believe in that. So that is why he did what he did with the mother and the baby.
How can a human being do this? Okay, Mike, when you texted me and you said demonic ?
Oh, sure.
Maybe it makes it easier to understand, makes it easier to comprehend. It's like if someone is able to do this to a 2-year-old child, they have to be of demonic, devilish nature.
How
not
can
even
the human
devilish
mind?
Not even devilish. They are the devil. I mean, maybe it's the only way that we can comprehend it. I just don't get it.
How can the human mind do this? And after these things, and I've seen on a video where they had him in prison, where he was smiling, he was happy.
Of course,
his conscience was fine. I'm sure he slept well at night. But how? I mean, the only explanation that you can come to where our minds can deal with it is that it had to be something demonic, because the human mind and the human being cannot do this. It can't happen.
I know.
But it does, and it has for centuries, and it will continue to go on for centuries that we haven't even come to yet.
And the thing is,
things that are worse than this is going to happen.
Which is unbelievably frightening and disturbing. It really makes you wonder, it's like, how are we all of the same species?
Right. We aren't. There are different species in the humankind that there are that does this and that cannot be linked to what you and I are.
Right.
To what the normal or what the compassionate, loving person can be. There's too much of a spread there that does not make sense.
Well, even okay, Mike, there even assholes out there who can't do stuff like this. You know?
Exactly.
I mean, there's there's dickheads out there all over the place who would never even consider dropping to this level of depravity.
There are people out there that I would love to rip their throat out, but that would not do this.
No, well, Mike's a believe it or not, Mike's a very passive, peaceful person.
Yes.
But this is the part that we were leery of talking about because it is so disturbing. We're talking about a 2-year-old baby. And this man did this to her.
And in his mind, it was because this little baby was half black.
My God. I'm sorry. I have to pause a second. I'm sorry. I sound like a moron right now. Okay, deep breath. It is supposed, Mike, that Gaskins actually, during this murder of Doreen Dempsey and her 2-year-old daughter, Gaskins is not supposedly, he claimed to cut off and eat part of Doreen's leg.
Sure. Yeah. Why not, huh?
And these bodies were the ones that are among the 8 that Walter Neely had led the cops to find at Gaskins' residence. Finally, we get to May 28th, 1976. Gaskins, thanks to his buddy, air quotes, buddy, Walter Neely, turned him in. The court found Pee Wee Gaskins guilty on 8 counts of first-degree murder, sentenced him to die in the electric chair. Now, of course, Gaskins does the usual serial killer coward thing to do, and he says that he's going to confess to more and more murders as long as they cop him a deal.
Right.
And they do any number of things for him. But Mike, we need to get to, before we run out of time here, his final murder in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Would you like to tackle this one, Mike, to kind of lay the basis for this? Is unbelievable.
Right. This is in death row, solitary. Okay, so it began with this. I'm trying to think what his name is. Tyner. Something Tyner.
Rudolph Tyner.
Rudolph Tyner. He was a
convicted murderer.
Convicted murderer, mentally
inadequate.
Sure. Yeah. However you want to put it. I was trying to be politically correct.
Well, what we heard earlier, and we're not going to, I don't like this word. I've hated this word since I was a kid, but the prosecutor who was talking about this in the video we watched earlier, he described him as halfway retarded. That's how he described him. That is his words, not ours.
Right, exactly. So this Tyner and a couple other guys, they robbed a convenience store. And after leaving the store, after robbing it, Tyner went back into the store and killed the married couple running the store. Shot them in the head, I believe it was, with a sawed-off shotgun.
Even though they were on their way out, they could have just left.
Yeah, they could have just left. So Tyner's prosecution and his time in prison and everything was taking a long time. After 6 years of Tyner kind of beating the death penalty and continuing on with court cases and everything, the couples.
It was described as procedural problems.
Exactly.
That kept
with
this
procedural
man,
problems.
That kept the Rudolph Tyner out of the electric chair. He was sentenced to, he was supposed to die twice. And everything kept being pushed back, and the family became very impatient.
Right. And the son of this couple, the adopted son, I believe it was, he just couldn't take it anymore. And he had a friend that was in prison, in the same prison that Gaskins was on death row at, and got him to get in touch with Gaskins to. Basically, what they did was put a hit out on this Tyner because they were just fed up. Nothing was getting done. He wasn't being executed quick enough. And from there, Gaskins became close to Tyner, like pretended to be a friend of his, and
got
gained
in
his trust,
got in his good graces,
got in his good graces, and from there,
can we say, by the way, though, that the way that they were able to set this up, unless you were getting there, Mike, and I'm interrupting you.
No, that's
I
okay.
Apologize, but they
go ahead.
This prison pal of Donald Pee Wee Gaskins. His name was Gerald, and they basically concocted this false. I don't want to say persona. It was just basically a false name of a doctor, Mr. Gerald McCormick, that Pee Wee was interacting with. That they would the families, the victim's family would call Mr. Gaskins and vice versa, collect from prison to their house under the guise that he was this Dr. Gerald McCormick. And that's basically what set up this whole communication here and set up this whole hit inside the prison.
And listening to the recordings of these actual phone calls it's
chilling.
It's very chilling.
It's just so casual and just like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm Gerald, and I'm supposed to, Gerald told me I'm supposed to call you up and tell you I'm a doctor. I mean, it's right there. You can find that on YouTube. I mean, these audio calls are just, anyway, go ahead, Mike. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's okay. So after befriending this Tyner, falsely befriending, Gaskins had figured out a type of, supposedly figured out a type of communication that he could keep in touch with Tyner. It was almost like you tie a string, you put a string between two soup cans and you put it up to your ear and you can hear. So he actually had done that, or supposedly had done that, or told Tyner that, okay, I'm going to send you this cup that is attached to a wire, and we can communicate between each other through this cup.
And keep in mind, this Tyner is not a smart man.
Right.
So not that Gaskins was a genius, but he's obviously manipulating this guy, and he's taking advantage of his uneducated
totally has
nature.
his trust.
Yes.
So in one of the phone call recordings that we'd listened to, you can hear Gaskin talking to whoever it is, getting him supplies for this phone thing. It was like a 12-ounce plastic cup that they use in the prison. So they use that, and Gaskins asked for something explosive. He asked for as much of a piece of a dynamite that he could. Well, the person that he was talking to said, well, I can get you C4 explosive, which probably worked even better because, I mean, C4 is like a clay type substance where, he just packed this into the bottom of this cup, and he drilled a hole in the bottom of it into where the C4 was, and he put a blasting cap into that hole there and connected that to the female plug of a wire, like a extension cord or whatever.
And that blasting cap, like you told me earlier, Mike, that's like the ignition part of it.
Right. It ignites the C4.
Yep.
So Gaskins sent this over to Tyner, and Tyner, thinking that this is a way that they can communicate.
Yeah.
And sent the wire over and told Tyner that, okay, connect this in and plug it in, and we'll be able to communicate.
Yes.
Well, what Tyner was actually doing, putting the cup up to his ear, like, the old soup can and a string thing, put it up to his ear, plugged it in, which plugging it in actually detonated the blasting cap, detonating the C4, and blew the hell out of Tyner, killing him instantly. I mean, the detectives were saying how their fingers were everywhere. in just it, blew him up. And actually on this video, it showed pictures of Tyner after this happened.
Yeah, you can
and
see
he
those.
was a hell of a mess.
The side of his head, the side of his face are basically gone. I mean, it like you said, the officers were saying they found police or fingers strewn across the cell. I thought that it was actually Gaskins who plugged it in on the other side of the wall, and that's what ignited it. That's what I heard them saying. I don't know. Maybe you're right too, Mike, about if that it was
That's possible.
that it was Tyner plugged it in. But the way that I heard it was that Gaskins was telling him, "Okay, hold it up to your ear," and then while he's on the other side of the wall, he plugs it in, and then
that could very well be.
Boom! But
then after it exploded and killed Tyner, he pulls the cord
right
back, which totally does not connect this explosion to him, and he comes out saying, "Oh, what happened?"
Right? I'm innocent. What's going on here? I'm just as shocked as everybody else. What?
Right.
What?
But the phone communications were heard or were found and were listened to, and that got him the death penalty,
and deservedly freaking so.
But why wouldn't he have gotten the death penalty before what he did do?
Well, again, Mike,
before that,
why wasn't he held in prison? Why was he released constantly? I mean, why? There was one
time where he was in prison and about to be released, and the prison officials or the psychiatrist or whatever had forwarded a message on to the people that I don't know something about the release, but it said in this message that these officials had said, this man is a psychopathic, deranged person that should not be released into the public. There should be provisions made to where he is put in the right place where he needs to be and not released into the public. But he was released anyway. So there were communications done to try and keep him put away.
Yeah.
But no, they released him anyway.
There's always,
and as soon as he gets released, he's back into doing what he's doing.
There's
what he's always done.
Always these little stupid loopholes.
Yeah.
Aren't there? That just keep things, keep people out of, keep people from getting what they deserve, basically, legally,
Right.
Oh my God, it's mad.
Oh, we are so running out of time. But I need to say this, though.
Well, we got 8.5 minutes. So, yeah. So, what do you got to say? We got a lot to say in 8.5 minutes.
Oh, we do. Okay. So, the final part of this, unless you have something more to say.
Well, Mike, you know what?
Oh, go ahead.
We can make this an extra long episode, and I could just send you another meeting invite.
Hey, I'd be up for that.
So
there's so much to say. So much to say.
Why don't we do a quick time traveling excursion, Mike? And we won't.
I gotta go potty.
We won't necessarily be that long, but we'll give us a little bit more time.
Yeah, just a little bit more time
to wrap it up here because it deserves a little bit more time. So
it does. Yeah.
Well, if you can bear it, everybody, stick around. We shall return after yet another brief time traveling excursion. Here we go. Nuke alert. We shall be right back. And we are back after yet another time traveling excursion and our final time traveling excursion for this episode, our dive into true crime, covering the sick and twisted, beyond disturbed and depraved life of Donald Pee Wee Gaskins.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, before we dive into some, opinions, basically, and some statements, Gaskins was eventually executed on September 6th, 1991. 1991, he was put to death.
Like at 1 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, or something like that.
1:10 in the a.m. Electric chair, hours after he tried to kill himself by slitting his wrists, as we talked about earlier. His last words were, "I'll let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go." Okay, what a profound final statement there, buddy. mean, my God, what, Mike? What do we want to? How do we want to put the final touches on this episode? It's so difficult to do so when it comes to such disturbing content. I mean, these are lives lost. That we're talking about. Aside from the atrocious acts that this man did, if anything, we're talking about the rape, sodomy, and murder of a 2-year-old girl. At the very least, that's what we're talking about with this guy. So this guy deserves a burn in hell for that.
Oh yeah, he did not make it to the pearly gates, I'm sure.
Hell no. No pun intended at all when I said that.
Yeah. Oh, and from that video, it looked like to this day, I don't know when that video was put out, but it looks fairly recent, but his house is still there.
Oh my God.
If we could do a long road trip.
Well, we already talked about making a road trip to Ed Gein's locale.
I know, even if the house isn't there, which it isn't, would be awesome. But
there's got to be some
the house is there and the woods around it where
the residual
and right where his
energy.
daughter showed where this is where he drowned the family friend and did what he did to the child. Ugh. I don't know. I'd be afraid of what we could find as far as EVP work and spirit box. I don't know if I could handle it. I really don't.
But how profound would it be if something was captured, on EVP, man? I mean, that would be, talk about chilling.
Hey, I got an idea.
What's that?
I wonder if his daughter could ever be reached and contacted for a possible episode.
Okay, after how we've talked about her tonight, we haven't exactly talked about her in glowing terms.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean she'd hear it.
Well, that's true. But again, okay, well, can we put any different type of spin on how we feel, our gut reactions to our initial takes? Well, not our gut reactions to our takes, but basically our gut reactions to how we felt about his daughter in those video interviews that we saw.
She knew too much.
She did.
Is she just going by what she's read or what she's heard by the media? No, it goes deeper than that.
And again, yes, we understand a daughter's love for her parents. We get that and stuff, but it's some of those. You said, Mike, at one point after I don't recall exactly what she said, but she started like kind of giggling, almost kind of like maniacally.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what that was.
Almost like maniacally, and it was like, why are you laughing when you're talking about such a thing?
About anything with this subject.
So I don't know. And I don't want to judge her, but I guess I kind of am by saying I got a bad vibe.
But as open as he was, just to the very edge of admitting to things. Well, he did admit to things, but people thought he was joking.
Yeah,
and then
that Mike. Did we talk about that, Mike? About him driving around in a purple hearse?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we did.
Did we? Well, I don't know if we talked about it on air.
Oh well.
Where he was, he actually drove around in this purple hearse, and people asked him, like, he had like a skeleton hanging from his rear view
and a bumper sticker that said, "This vehicle hauls bodies."
Yeah, and a bumper sticker that said that, and the skeleton hanging from the rear view mirror, and people would jokingly ask him, like, "Why do you have this stuff?" And he said, "Well, because." Wow, what did he say, Mike?
Well, he said it because did he say that he actually say that he kills people and hauls their bodies, or?
Well, that's another thing that maybe adding to his legend, because there's both things where he said he hauls bodies, and also where he said, well, yeah, because I've killed so many people. So supposedly that's what he said. And Mike, during our time traveling excursion, we questioned ourselves. We said, are we somehow adding to this man's burgeoning legend, maybe?
Yeah. Should we not even do episodes like this? Because it brings them to light. It brings them up to where, what if somebody inadvertently hears this episode that thinks, oh, I like that idea.
Yeah,
You know,
I would.
But then that's
hope
saying
not.
too many bad things about our listeners.
Well, of course it is.
But then that doesn't mean that some psycho might pop in and I like that idea.
That's
You know?
exactly it. No, Mike, I get you. I
And
get you 100%. I mean, these are delicate topics. They really are. I mean, and we have to be truthful. But we also we put our own. We want to be entertaining. Let's just be frank. Again, you're Mike. I'm Patrick. We'll both be frank.
Right.
We want to be entertaining. We want to be informative, and we also want to lay out. We want to lay it out in such a way that it allows our listeners to make their own decisions, make their own, I guess, judgments on all of this, and encourage them to do their own research and look into this if they're interested.
Oh, and Google this to see that video. I mean, it's like a 45-minute long video, and it's frightening. I mean,
No, it
to
is.
his daughter alone, listening to her and walking on his stomping grounds where people were killed and people were buried, and she explains it like she's a tour guide.
Right. That's a great way of putting it.
It's just, I don't know. It's remarkable, and I don't understand it. I wish I could get into her mind and figure her out, but it's creepy.
And Mike, we'll wrap it up here. And I've been going back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to mention this at all tonight on the podcast. So I don't mean to lay it on to you right now, but I think when you said, what are we adding to, the burgeoning legends here? Are we somehow, maybe someone inadvertently or someone who might be kind of on the verge, maybe listening to what we're talking about, and then what we're talking about kind of gives them that little spark, and they say, "Ooh, I like that idea," such and such. When you said that brought this up to me, and my heart is kind of racing right now a little bit because I've been going back and forth about talking about this, and this is not what we do on the podcast ever, really ever, but it is so important to me. The tragedy that happened in Texas this last week is beyond sickening and tragic, and it's something that I'm at a loss of words right now. We need not, I don't mean to sound cliched, but my God damn, something needs to be freaking done about this bullshit.
Something needs to be done, but I have no idea what.
The thing is, well, I could say a lot of things. I don't want to get political. I do not want to get political because all of our listeners, we love all of you, and you all are more than welcome to have your point of view and your opinions.
And we respect
anything
that their point of view is.
But why the hell can we not all come to an agreement that something is goddamn wrong in this country where shit like this only happens in America?
Yeah. You look at these other countries, and they do not seem to have this issue.
No. What does that say? To me, the answer is plain. The answer is, I'm not going to say what it is. You guys can figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But, sometimes, Mike, I struggle when stuff like this happens or tragedies like this happens because, we do have a voice and we have a fairly successful podcast. And I feel like we're obligated to talk about stuff like this. But I also realize that people tune in because they want a diversion from shit.
They want to escape from that. They want to listen to a podcast that does not deal with everyday freaking bullshit news.
And I get that. I 100%
not that these things on the news aren't important, but
of course,
but because they are, but
they're beyond important. And all I'm going to say is I want people to think about this. If you're listening to this, I want you to think. And I beg you to, I shouldn't even say beg. I would appreciate thought going into this and perhaps maybe sending out some, oh my gosh, as lame as it might sound, we need to send out positivity. We need to send out vibes.
Yep, I was going to say positive vibes.
There are people that you're not going to change anyone's minds. I realize that, and it's so heartbreaking, Mike. I mean, I got emotional when this shit happened. I'm not joking.
Yeah,
I did. It's something needs to change. I hope that people are listening to this understand that we're passionate about this. We're passionate about our listeners. We're passionate about our podcasts. We're passionate about what we talk about. We understand that you're not tuning in to listen to us ramble on about stuff like this. But my God, I needed to say something. So thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, I'm passionate about love and compassion.
100.
And away from all of this stuff that we cannot get away from.
Yeah.
Because it's every freaking day.
I know. It's sad.
But anyway, about this this Gaskins, are we about getting to the end of where, because I have an ending for this that when I saw on this video.
No, please dive into it, man. Yeah.
The daughter, freaky again, showing her going out in this woods by his house where he lived and taking us to the place where he wanted his ashes to be scattered. Okay, so in the woods, and what she was saying, his stomping grounds, what was his stomping grounds? Where he killed people, where he buried them, where he raped them and tortured them. That was his stomping ground. That's where he wanted his ashes spread.
And that was done.
And that was done. Well, his daughter did that. She took us in this video to a very specific spot, knelt down on the ground, and started digging in this one specific area and said, "This is where my daddy is. This is where his ashes are." And she's scooping up handfuls of dirt. And, and she was talking about it like, "Oh, my poor father passed away and he's buried here." And she just sounded like, this was like a thing for her.
Like the spot was revered. Like the spot was
exactly.
It was this was what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? This I'm totally drawing a blank. I know the word I'm looking for, Mike. It's a special place. Like
hallowed ground.
There you go. Thank you. Hallowed ground. That's what I was looking for. My God.
Yeah, and that's how she was seeming to. I mean, you could see the river there, where this was, where she was at, pawing in this dirt where his ashes were, and where he had killed that woman and raped her 2-year-old child.
My God.
In that same vicinity.
Nope.
And then after that, she said, it showed a clip of her saying, "Well, like I said earlier, she said she would always love her daddy. I love my daddy. I always will."
I just don't get it, man.
I don't know. It's just totally mind-boggling to me.
And when I said I don't get it, I mean, I don't mean this is stuff that we've thought about several times, Mike. It's like, as an example, Jeffrey Dahmer's father still to this day says that he loves Jeffrey, and he is so troubled and disturbed and just absolutely beaten down by what his son did. I get that. I do get it. You can see it in his face. You can see the pain and anguish in Jeffrey Dahmer's father, in his face. For some reason, though, this daughter just, how many times have we said this, Mike? This daughter just came across as, I'm just going to say it, weird and creepy to me as to how she was just absolutely almost adoring her dad, knowing damn well what he was doing and what he did.
Yep. Even in my notes when I had written something down about earlier on with his daughter, and then right after that I wrote, "And she's creepy too." In my notes. It's just, I don't know. It's beyond me. I am just a simple human being that lives by love and compassion and kindness. And this stuff, I can't.
It's tough
wrap
to
my
fathom.
head around it.
It's so hard to fathom. It just is.
It's inhuman. I mean, that's a cliche too. It's inhuman, but I mean, this was a human being born into a human world that becomes this or is this from such an early age or from the beginning. And it's unfathomable. I can't understand it.
Mike, we'll wrap it up with this. Do you think there's any chance that Donald Pee Wee Gaskins literally was born with the devil in him?
I'm going to say no about the possession and the demonic possession, but I am going to say that he was still a personification of evil.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. I gotcha. No,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge difference. Huge difference. The wiring is just off for this guy.
Yeah.
Or he was being
Well, he drank kerosene, remember, when he was a
that's
young
true.
child.
Or there was a higher power or a lower power totally manipulating and controlling his life. That's I'm with you, Mike, on as far as Donald Gaskins goes here. I think that he was just a depraved, sick individual who had a horrible childhood. Yes, it's not an excuse. Not an excuse.
It takes more than a horrible childhood, though.
It does. A lot of us have
guarantee you
horrible
that.
childhoods. A lot of us have horrible events during our childhoods, and we don't turn into horrendous serial killers. You know, that's just how it goes. Damn it, Mike.
Yep.
I feel I'm going to have nightmares tonight now. Damn it,
Yep.
we got a little too deep. A little too deep. But it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. Our next episode is going to be way different,
We'll think of something. My gosh, we need.
but it'll be great.
We need some levity thrown in there. We need to. I'm not saying we're going to go back to like nonsense cast radio
No.
type stuff, but we're gonna revert back to our
Yeah.
goofiness in some levels. Well, Mike, this has been awesome. Thank
Hey,
you so much.
we didn't come up with some. Sorry to
That's
cut
fine.
you off there, but
Yeah.
we didn't come up with a final take thing for this episode.
No, absolutely not. I wasn't planning on it. No.
Oh, okay.
When we do, when we're going to do, well, I'll tell you when we're off the air. What
Yeah,
what the
that
plan
sounds
is
good.
for that one. But this has been a blast, Mike. We're up. Hour and 30 some minutes or 35 minutes or so right now. So it's time to
Well,
say
people have been
goodnight.
bored and sleeping before now. Then
And I hope I didn't bother or offend anybody by my little vent into the events earlier this week. R.I.P. Ray Liotta. Mike, your favorite gift.
yeah. I will still use that meme in great reverence.
Absolutely a fantastic actor.
Or
R.I.P.
GIF, I should say.
R.I.P. to sadly a member of my favorite band of all time, Mr. Andy Fletcher, affectionately known as Fletch, shockingly passed away the same day that Ray Liotta passed away as well.
Yeah.
And Mike, I'm telling you, that gutted me on Thursday.
I'm
night
sure it did.
when I heard that.
And one more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Burr Lives has passed away also.
Again?
Yeah, again.
Okay. Man.
I love Burr Lives.
R.I.P. R.I.P. Well, Mike, this has been a blast, a demented blast, but a blast nonetheless. Hang on for 1 second. Until next time, what do all of our paranormal pals need to do?
Please, after this harrowing episode, please peace out.